All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys had an incredible day. We're having a 3-show day today. We hit the in-season tournament games from last night earlier today that you can find on our feed. This video, we're just covering Knicks-Bucks, and then later tonight, we'll be coming back for Suns-Lakers. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to me if you'd scroll down and hit that subscribe button really quick. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss our film threads as well as our show announcements. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of this week. I thought this was yet another incredible in-season tournament game. Obviously the least competitive of the three that we've watched, but it's been everything we could hope for from the standpoint of like the combination of some playoff level intensity as well as the single elimination format, which is really exciting. That was what was kind of hanging over this game. I didn't realize it until today, but I guess the teams that lose in these elimination rounds, particularly the quarterfinal rounds, have to play the other loser from their conference in a regular season game, essentially, right? And so, like, the loser of this game had to travel to Boston to play the Celtics, which is, it's like a significant penalty, right? Like, Boston's a really tough road game to win, right? And so, like, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a double loss, at least from the standpoint of your probability of going into Boston and winning against one of the best teams in the league, right? And so it carried that intensity from the beginning. I thought Giannis in particular set the tone early with his level of effort, got a couple of early offensive rebounds. He was just cooking in transition. Julius Randle, I thought, did a decent job on him in the half court. The Knicks in general did a good job walling up in the half court, but in those transition sets, and especially off of the defense, which we're going to talk a lot about here in a minute, because I thought Brook Lopez in particular was the kind of key factor in some of the offensive struggles that the Knicks were having. But Giannis was just applying that incessant pressure, getting downhill in transition. And then Dame had this amazing stretch at the end of the second quarter, literally with 2.5 minutes left. Before halftime, he scored 13 points. He started picking on Julius Randle and pick and roll, bringing him up into ball screens. First one, Bobby Portis set it. Randle was sitting too far back. Hits a pull-up three while Quentin Grimes is kind of like caught on his left side trying not to foul, right? Very next possession, Julius Randle shows high. Dame splits it. He gets tripped, gets to the foul line, makes 2 free throws. Then he hits a step-back three on Jalen Brunson, just that classic Dame left hand kind of in and out dribble step back. That was point number 8. Then he gets downhill on Julius Randle and pick and roll again and gets all the way to the rim and draws a foul. That's 10. And then he hits another step-back three on Julius Randle in pick and roll, once again coming off that ball screen, drawing Julius out to the 3-point line, and this time he hit him with the right-handed in and out dribble step back. Those to me are like everybody's got like their kind of thing that they've added to the game of basketball. Obviously, James Harden has a specific step back footwork, but Dame, in my opinion, has the best quick in and out step back jump shot in the game. He hit one of each of them going both ways to get to 13 points in less than 3 minutes, sending the Bucks into halftime up by 3. And they took over pretty quickly there in the early third quarter. There was kind of a fake DHO where Giannis had Dame running off of him, and Dame was red hot out of halftime. And so Giannis just quick turned and faked the DHO, got all the way to the rim for a layup. Chris Middleton got going in that stretch. Chris Middleton, like, again, we're not seeing the real top end scoring pop, but he does look more athletic than I saw him look earlier in the season, and I think that's encouraging, and I think we'll see some of the scoring pop come in the long run. But I thought, like, the story of the game, because it kind of had a shootout vibe, right? Like, Julius Randle we're going to talk about him in a minute, but played one of the best games I've ever seen him play, especially in terms of his offensive execution. Obviously, he still has some limitations, and Dame was picking on him a lot, as I just mentioned, but it had a shootout vibe. And, you know, the announcers on TNT were saying, like, someone's got to take control of this game defensively. And it ended up being, namely, Brook Lopez in the second half, particularly in drop coverage at the rim, shutting off the hard driving lanes for Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel Quickley and forcing them into a lot of tough mid-range pull-up jump shots for Jalen Brunson and those little floaters for Emmanuel Quickley, and he was missing. And both of them ended up having nightmare games. I thought that was kind of like the swing matchups of the game, if I looked at it. And that, like, it's just from the Knicks' perspective, like, you're thinking, how do we get our butts kicked with how well Randle played? And it was 3 key matchups. I thought Dame outplayed Jalen Brunson, was just significantly more efficient and impactful. I thought Cam Payne in those bench lineups, he came right in that second quarter, started applying downhill downhill rim pressure, and he was hitting floaters. He was driving and kicking to shooters. I thought Campaign just outplayed Emmanuel quickly, who really struggled. And then lastly, Brook Lopez and his overall impact, making threes, driving closeouts, defending in drop coverage. I just thought he was much better than Mitchell Robinson. And those three massive swings ended up basically being the difference in this game from an offensive perspective. But I wanted to shout out Brook Lopez because I thought specifically because he kind of has this unique ability to shut the rim off, but all he has to do is kind of take one step forward and go like this, and he can do a lot to bother those mid-range shots, which I think is what makes him such a uniquely gifted drop coverage big in the NBA. Super, super impressive win from the Milwaukee Bucks. One last note on the Bucks that I wanted to hit. Malik Beasley's having an incredible season. Not counting tonight, I just wanted to give you guys some perspective. As someone who covered him closely with the Lakers last year, he shot 28% in spot-up situations last year. So one of the things the Lakers did, which I disagreed with, is they ran him off a ton of off-ball action and specifically was like hunting shots for him off the move, and he didn't shoot particularly well on those shots, and I thought it disrupted his rhythm in his spot-up situations, and he was nightmarishly bad in spot-up situations. Well, the Bucks are running him for off-screen shots about 1/3 as frequent as the Lakers are. The vast majority of Malik Beasley's shots are in closeout situations. And so it's allowing him to kind of really settle into a rhythm in those situations. And he's knocking him down at a significantly higher rate. Just to give you an idea, again, 28% for the Lakers last year, Malik Beasley in spot-up situations. So far for the Bucks this year, 47%. And I think it's invigorated him. You see him, he's doing this like shimmy thing every time he makes a three. He's a bad defensive player in my opinion, but he's competing on the defensive end, which goes a long way. You guys, your Buck fans know that I am a big believer that spot in particular is one that the Bucks are going to have to upgrade at some point before the season. That said, with as well Beasley has been shooting during the regular season, it's been more than adequate for them to be as dominant as they have been. On the Knicks front, again, don't want to overthink it. I stopped watching this game with about 3 minutes left to get in here because obviously I'm getting back out there for Lakers Suns. But when I stopped watching and the Bucks were up 20-something with 3 minutes left, the Bucks were over 60% from the field and over 60% from three. They were like 22 for 36 from three or something like that. Now, obviously, you guys know I believe process leads into results. In general, I thought at the point of attack, they really struggled. There was really no stretch of the game where they contained the ball well, except for the brief stretches there in the first half where I thought Julius Randle did a decent job on Giannis. But just in general, like sometimes you got to tip the cap. Like Damian Lillard got going with his pull-up jump shot. It's really tough to beat him when he's doing that. Giannis hit a three at one point in the second half. They just shot really, really well. And sometimes you're going to go into an environment like that, and it's just going to be like a buzzsaw. And if there was a point of encouragement there, it's how good Julius Randle looked. He's a guy that rushes things a lot, doesn't see the floor well usually, tends to overpenetrate, and this was as under control and methodical as I've seen him look offensively at any point in the NBA. I thought that was encouraging. Jalen Brunson's like the one guy I don't worry about on this team. So like it's one of those things, you get a bad Jalen Brunson night, you get a bad Emmanuel Quickly night, and that ends up swinging things offensively. It turns into this like cascading effect where now the Bucks are getting out in transition and you can't set your defense, and now they're just playing more energetically, so they're getting to the offensive glass, and it just kind of cascades from there. And so I think me watching this game, this was more good Bucks than bad Knicks in my opinion. So sometimes you just got to tip the cap. But highly entertaining first game of the in-season tournament tonight. I'm going to get back out there and watch game number 2. I appreciate you guys. I will see you in a couple of hours.